please make sure you go over to YouTube, subscribe, or you can always find us on any of the podcast platforms, and that's Fostering Change. Well, you know what? It's so hard to believe we have another episode of Fostering Change. And by the way, what an amazing weekend. This past weekend, we actually had our barbecue benefit. Over 300 people showed up to truly support the mission of Comfort Cases. And I just want to personally say thank you. But what I really want to thank is all of our viewers, all of our listeners, people that watch us on our YouTube channel. Because of you, Fostering Change was just voted the #1 podcast in our foster care community for the 3rd year in a row. So I am so excited to introduce my next guest. My next guest actually is the founder and CEO of an organization called National Angels. When I heard about this organization, I constantly keep saying this to people. Organizations like this is truly going to change the forefront of foster care. And that's exactly what we need to do. The status quo of how we were doing it for so long has not worked, my friends. And we know it hasn't worked because of the statistics that we see today. The needle's not moving. The needle's not moving. I see a lot of money going out, but I don't see any movement. And this organization is seeing the movement. So before we get into any more conversation, please welcome my friend Susan, who is again the CEO and founder of National Angels. Susan, welcome to Fostering Change.
Thank you, Rob. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Well, I am excited to talk to you, and I'm excited for all of our listeners and viewers to find out about your organization. So let's get right to it. What exactly is, National Angels?
So National Angels, it was such a beautiful tee up to talk about transforming the foster care experience and moving the needle forward, because that is exactly what our organization is set out to do. It is set out to change the way that children, youth, and families experience foster care. And so what we do is we have a program. We have 2 main programs, the Love Box and the Dare to Dream program. Both of those are designed to kind of radically walk alongside children, youth, and families that are experiencing the foster care through a really radical customization support. So what that means is identifying what are the needs that a child has, what are the needs that a caregiver has, and how do we remove barriers so that a child can stay in placement. And our Dare to Dream program is a mentorship, a one-on-one mentorship program where a youth will hit 10 developmental milestones. So things like opening up a bank account, understanding financial literacy, obtaining their driver's license, and so on and so forth, with the idea that they are fully prepared for adult living about what happens after they age out at 18 years old. We want them fully equipped and prepared for adulthood because we believe that every single child should have at least one healthy adult who knows the color of their eyes and the passions of their heart, and be able to remove barriers for them so that they can reach their fullest potential.
Wow.
And our North Star is changing the stats. How do we change the statistics? How do we change the outcomes? And we believe we do that through relationships. So it's just a real honor, Rob, to be here with you today. We receive Comfort Cases. We pass those along. We just did a big shipment for back to school. It's just incredible. So I'm so happy to be here with you today. Big fan of what you do and what you stand for.
I'm a fan of yours. And I want to talk about the Hope Box, because I absolutely love this. I love this. I love the fact, one of the things, and as I grew up in the system. I aged out of the system. I've adopted 5 children with my husband out of the system. And so, I don't think, I am so into the system. And the thing that I see in the system that I really think that people just, this is why I say, and by the way, I know you guys are going to send me the hate emails. I get them all the time. This is an industry that makes money on the back of children. Okay, because of the fact they're not making change. And when you made the comment of how to keep a child in placement, it's almost like I agree with you. But what I also want to see is how to keep a child in their family of origin, and if, that to me is, I think that, it's like, and I feel like what we need to do is that when a child comes into the system, the very first thing that should happen, no matter what the reason that that child is coming into the system, unless there's severe abuse. And by the way, we know for a fact that statistics show us 23% are kids in the system because of the abuse. The rest is because of the word neglect. We know the word neglect is no more than defined by poverty. So what we should do the day that that child comes into the system, everybody comes to the table. I want the parents of origin there. I want the foster parents at that table. I want the guardian ad litem at that table. I want the CASA worker at that table. I want the social worker at that table. And I want them to look at the birth parents. And I want them to say, what can we do to make this path as quickly as possible to have your baby back in your arms?
Yes, yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I agree with that. And I think, what we say, National Angels, is the foster care community, not just foster parents, not just child experience foster care, but the entire community. That not everybody's called to foster and not everybody's called to adopt, but everyone can play a role and make a difference. And I think when we have a whole community that wraps around the foster care system, that's what creates change. And so our Love Box program, we have it so that the intention is to keep children in placement. The statistics, 50% of foster parents will close their home within the first year. So what we know is that on average, children will move 7 times within 2 years. Our program says if the child is removed and placed in a home, how do we keep them in placement stability until they go back to biological family, which is the goal, or they become a permanent part of that home through adoption? How do we prevent kids from moving from home to home to home? And in the event that they go back to biological, our Love Box program goes with them. So that support is then wrapped around biological family where appropriate and where needed.
And tell me, what is in a Love Box?
So the Love Box program, when we match volunteers, so let's say we get a referral that comes in that says, I'm a foster parent, I'm self-referral, or we get the attorney ad litem or a CASA worker or a state worker that says, I'd like to refer this family to your program. What happens is we do what's called a strength assessment with the caregivers. And we say, tell me where you're killing it being a parent, and then tell me where there's area of gaps where we can kind of help fill some of the needs. Is it a financial need? Is it babysitting need? Is it transportation? Like, what are all the needs? And you just go through and you just understand where this one family could use support. Then we put all of that information into what's kind of like a Match.com algorithm. And we match people based on scope of need and capability to give. So for you and your husband, you might not have a high financial need, but you've got 5 freaking kids. And so like, oh my God, we love a date night. And so we'd love a date night every other Friday, or we'd love somebody to help with dinner. We'd love help with soccer practice. So our case managers will enter in that data and will match people on scope of need, capability. And then what happens is that case manager and that volunteer works to fill those needs and fill the gaps where there is no other social service that's doing that so uniquely, where it's actually tailored to that specific family. So the Love Box could be filled with items like, hey, I need toilet paper, paper towels, laundry, soap.
Right.
We send kids back to school. Or October, hey, it's Halloween, kids need costumes, pumpkin kits, like, could you help provide that? So every month it's going to look like custom support for the caregivers and for the family. So what also makes our program unique is that we believe that when a parent decides to foster, so does every child in the home. And so we believe in breaking down the otherness. There is no such thing as like, we're going to show up and just be there for that one kid. It's every kid in the home, and mom and dad, or and dad and dad, or single mom, or, everybody gets the support. We had a conversation not that long ago with a caregiver out of Seattle who's fostered for 50 years, her and her husband. And she said, Susan, it was the first time, she said, I have 6 teenagers in my home at all times. And one of the social workers would pick the child up to go take them to biological visits, and then they'd bring back a burger and a Coke. But they were the only child that got that special treat. And so while the social worker thought that they were doing a great thing to bring them a Coke and a burger, what it did was it created absolute disruption in my home. That one kid would get really mad, like, you're getting to do visits, I don't get to do visits, and you got a Coke, and knock it out of their hand and create a fight. And it was a trauma response. And so she said, I would have to tell them, if you're going to pick up these kids or you're going to bring something, you have to bring it for all or no one. And she said, what happened is no one got anything ever. So when the Angels program started to support them, and we brought something for every kid. So if Jimmy gets something, so does Johnny, so does Serena. They all get it. Everybody gets it. And that's what it means to holistically support the family unit that breaks down the otherness and says, you matter, you matter, you matter. You all matter in this system and in this program.
So, you know what the fact is that I am 100% on board with that, because I, as a kid who grew up in the system, was constantly watching as the biological children got stuff, but me, because I was the foster kid, I didn't get it. And that works havoc on your brain. That truly works havoc on your brain. And I love, let me tell you, when my husband and I became foster parents, we had 4 kids arrive within a 3-month period. They were 4, 2, 2, and 6 months. And we had no support. Yes. Here we were, we had never been parents before. We had no support. And I remember saying to Reese, I truly understand why a foster parent lasts for a year. Because the burnout of not having, there were 4 doctor's appointments and family visits, and we wanted to be very active with our children. But, one of the things that just really got me is that, I see that, so many foster parents, they're doing it, and you and I both know, not all of them are doing it because of the right reason, but the majority of them are doing it. And the problem, they're not staying. And the ones that are not staying in it, the ones who truly have the heart there, the ones that we want to have our kids, they're leaving because they're not supported. And so to see an organization like yours come in and do this, I'm going to tell you something. Listen up, everybody. I say this quite often. You cannot have organizations like this without financial support. Understand that. We all know that. So listen up. The website is right here. Her website's going to be here. I want you to go. I want you to donate. By the way, this is my birthday month. Throw Rob some birthday love and go and donate to National Angels. Now let's jump over to your other program, okay? Because I have this unbelievable soft spot within my heart when it comes to kids who are aging out. This year, Reese and I actually were able to finalize the adoption of our 5th child. He arrived in our home at the age of 18. He's now 22. I remember when I met him, this green-eyed, beautiful boy who had just been put from place to place to place to place, and all he wanted was permanency. He just wanted a family to look at him and say, I love you unconditionally. And it gets me choked up to talk about my son, Alex. But you made the comment that, every child deserves to have somebody. I remember standing in the courtroom and I said to the judge, because I was asked, why would you adopt a 22-year-old? He'd been with you since he was 18. And I remind everybody that every single child deserves a foundation. Every child deserves to know someone loves them unconditionally, that someone is there when they fall back and they're going to catch them. Every child deserves to know that. And the thing that you said that I will not forget is that every child deserves to have one adult know the color of their eyes. I love that, Susan.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So tell me about this program, because I truly, real quick, my opinion on this is that when children enter the system, we should immediately start preparing them for exiting the system, because we know that they get no support when they exit the system. And we have states that, they hand the kid a check for $500 and say goodbye. And that's the thing that always blows my mind. We ride in on the white horse to save the child, but as soon as that child gets to that age of, they aging out, see you later. I think we need to prepare kids immediately. We need to start focusing on futures and not waiting till they're 16, because you know as well as I do, if a kid who's in the system and all of a sudden you start at 16, they're already pissed off. You know, everybody's let them down. 7 placements in 2 years. I mean, come on. You know, I want to know about this program because I love this.
Yeah. So there is a famous quote by Desmond Tutu, who's a South African theologian and human rights activist. And he says, there comes a point, or he said, because he's passed away, but he said that there comes a point in time where we have to stop pulling people out of the river. We have to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. And it's such a powerful quote when we hear about what happens when children, youth age out of the foster care system. We know that the statistics are stacked so high against them that even though they have a full ride to most state schools, they won't go. 97%, won't earn a college degree, even though they have that full ride. And it's not just that stat, it's the prison stat. The majority of our prison are homeless, human traffic victims. So if we go upstream, what we find is that there is a point where the majority of all of that starts with foster care. It is what feeds in to all these other social issues. And people are like, oh, foster care doesn't affect me. It does. It affects all of us. Every single one of us. Every one of us, it does. And I think, so for me, I'm so passionate about ensuring, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, Rob, that we have to equip children with skills and resources and knowledge and have the understanding of what is the passions of their heart and be able to remove barriers in tandem with them. So transformation, what we believe is that if we're going to empower youth, we have to work with them to equip them. Not that it's like, here's $500, figure it out. That will never work. But what are your dreams? What are your desires? Well, I don't know. Do you want to go visit trade schools? Let's go look at welding. Let's go look at plumbing. Let's go look at, cosmetology schools. Do you want to go to college? I don't know. Let's go do site visits at the university, at the community college. Let's go visit. Do you want to go into a branch of service? I don't know. Let's go meet with a recruiter. We have to give kids an opportunity of vision of what can be capable, that the idea that you age out and you go homeless should be completely off the table. Yeah. That if we are working to empower them, to give them choice, to allow them, and then also to push them about what they are capable of. Because when you get moved 7 times, or you have in your experience where a child doesn't get the ice cream or the vacation, what that says is, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. And we have to rewrite that. We have to rewrite that. And we have to say, you are, and let us walk together hand in hand so that you can achieve all the dreams and desires of your heart. And also, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a hard road, but I'm in this with you. Right. And now all of a sudden we see transformation taking place. We see kids take little risks, try new things. And so our Dare to Dream program is about fully preparing them for adult living.
I love it.
Fully prepare youth for adult living.
And they need to be prepared, because the fact is, it's just like I prepare my 5 kids. My husband and I are very adamant. They have their checking accounts. They have to learn how to balance it. What does it mean to overdraft and all? I mean, that's what parents do. You brought up the point where you said that children deserve to have a vacation. Okay. One of the things that has really, really bothered me and has bothered me since I was a young boy is respite. I remember as a young boy, my foster family going on vacation. I was taken to a respite house, and they would come back a week later, and I'd have to sit in the back seat and listen to them talk about their trip to Disney World. And I didn't go. And I've talked to other kids in the system who've aged out, and they've made the same comment, about the beach trips, why they were dropped off at respite, or and I understand every parent needs a break. By the way, we have 5 kids. We are fortunate enough that, my kids now, they're teenagers, but when they were younger, we would bring a nanny in and watch them while my husband and I got at least a trip away just on a weekend if we got one night. Normally what happened, we'd sit there, talk about the kids the whole time and say, what the heck are we doing here? Let's go back home and get our babies. But how do you feel about the respite, though?
I feel like it's such a focus for us, for the whole family unit. And I think, I encourage people to do what they feel like they need to do in order to continue to foster.
Got it.
But we focus heavily, holistically on creating an environment where it's the whole family,
Yeah, I
you
love
know?
that. And
Yeah, the
what
whole
I
family.
also have to tell you that it's the whole entire family of the foster parents as well. And here's a good example. When our children came to us, we immediately got their aunt and uncle certified that our children were allowed to spend the night at their house, because as you know, a kid in the system, they have to go. But immediately, my sister Helena and my brother-in-law Lance stepped up and said, you know what, we're going to take the classes, we're going to do everything, because we want our nephews and our niece to be able to spend the night and come and stay with us. And so we did that immediately. So the kids never felt like they were, dropped off at,
At a
who's doing
stranger.
respite this weekend. So
Yeah.
I really I wish that foster parents, when they're looking to take this journey, that they sit down with their whole family and say, listen, because I'll have to tell you something. When my children arrived, and by the way, they did not arrive thinking that we were going to adopt them. As you know, the goal is reunification. But my in-laws, I'll never forget, my in-laws arrived the day after our kids arrived, stayed with us for 2 weeks to help us because we had like no idea what the heck we were doing. But they never once treated my kids like they were kids from the foster care system. These were their babies.
Incredible, because that's not the norm. So to have that kind of family support is vital. And I think you're absolutely right. And that's what makes our program, when we do this strength assessment to say, what do you need? Many of them will say, like, I have no one here. I have no family supporting me. I have no one helping me. And so I feel very passionate about the idea that children would go to a stranger's house again, is really heartbreaking. So how do we keep them in the family? I remember when I fostered this beautiful little boy, big blue eyes. And anyways, my best friend did respite for me. And I remember when he was getting reunified, her name was Tanya, but she goes by T. Logan had said to T, I want to thank you for loving me at 5 years old. Thank you for loving me. And because she had kind of played that auntie role.
Right.
And I just think, like that is the absolute best outcome for a child, to feel loved by so many people. Quick story in our Olympic chapter. So what I didn't mention prior is that National Angels operates in 21 cities and 16 states across the country. Our Olympic chapter a few months ago called me and said, I got an impact story I got to tell you. There was a young little girl, 7 years old, who spent, 3 years in foster care. And the foster mom was having a conversation with her through the therapist. And they said to the little girl, why do you think that you're in foster care? And she said, oh, because so many people love me. That's why I'm in foster care. And when our Olympic chapter called me, I said, that is the actual dream of the situation, that kids are treated so well that is their point of view of why they're in foster care, because so many people love them.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I absolutely love that. Listen, everybody, the organization is National Angels, and in November, they are actually doing a give-a-thon. The give-a-thon is from the 21st to the 28th. And so, listen, I'm asking you to do me a favor. It's National Adoption Awareness Month for the month of November. Let's go and show Susan some love. Let's do it this month for my birthday. Let's do it next month for their give-a-thon. And let's continue to realize that when you support a child, okay, when you support a child, you truly support and invest in your future. In your future. Let me tell you, the reason why: the children that you invest in are our leaders of tomorrow. They're truly our leaders of tomorrow. So don't you want a great leader? Don't you want a great leader? And you do that by investing. Susan, you are absolutely amazing. I could talk to you all day. I definitely want to have you back. I want to know more. I want to see how you grow. I just absolutely love this. Everybody, The website link is right here. You can click right on it. It'll take you right to National Angels. Do that donation. See how you can get involved. Maybe there's a chapter within the area that you're living. Volunteering is the biggest thing that can fill your heart. And by the way, not all of you can adopt. Not all of you can foster. Not all of you can donate. But I will tell you that each and every one of you have the most valuable thing that we all have in common, and that is your time. That is your time. And that's all children are asking for. So go out today and be a good human. Susan, take care, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Fostering Change. You can actually watch a couple of episodes right here.